Hello and welcome back to the A2J2 podcast, a podcast where four friends just said, we talk sports anyway. Might as well record it. As always, I am James White, and I am with my three co hosts, Jordan Ison, Andrew Hill, and Austin Curtis. We're going to jump right into the action today, starting with the conference championship games from last week. I'm going to start with the NFC championship that saw the San Francisco 49ers try to invade Lincoln Financial Field playing the Philadelphia Eagles. And that did not happen, as we saw very early on. The Eagles were dominant from start to finish. You had the Eagles get the ball to start the game and have a nice long sustained drive. We're not going to talk about whether or not Devontae Smith dropped that pass or not
Not
because
a
Kyle
catch.
Shanahan didn't think he did.
Yeah.
So started the game off, hurt Brock Purdy. At the end of the day, I don't know how you can watch that game and not think Hassan Reddick is not capable of being the Defensive Player of the Year, not even nominate him for the award, but whatever. The main storyline from this game was the Brock Purdy injury, followed by the Josh Johnson injury. The Eagles' pass rush was just too much against a fairly good offensive line for San Francisco, and that kind of told the story. And another side note is it's very interesting that in this game, Nick Bosa took an L, but his brother took an L on the same day because he experienced Philly firsthand and thought he was a tough guy while drinking a Bud Light seltzer, which is a very interesting look. But as an Eagles fan, it was a very fun game to watch. Not a lot of stress. Me and Austin were losing our minds. My neighbor was worried about me and asked Amanda if I was okay. That's the kind of game it was. So I had to shoot out there and be like, hey, no, I'm good. I'm actually happy. That's what my happiness sounds like today. So as an Eagles fan, you can't ask for a whole lot more going forward. Got a lot of confidence in the defense, and I'm looking forward to seeing what we do here a week from today. So that's uh that's my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're exactly right. But as an outsider's perspective, that was for the second Eagles playoff game in a row, that was boring. I mean, it just was. Now, I'm not going to lie, the first quarter and then first half of the second quarter was exciting because I love good defense. Like you said, Hassan Reddick, holy cow, man, that guy is unbelievable. And he hurt both of the quarterbacks for San Francisco. So that's just
And Dominican Sue hurt
Oh,
Josh Johnson.
Sue had hurt Josh Johnson. Okay. Well, I mean, one point I wanted to make is the Eagles front just feels like it's historically good. I mean, every single play they're putting pressure on the quarterback, which is obviously tough to do, especially against a good offensive line like San Francisco boasts. So, I mean, what I saw from the Eagles was that defensive front can get and interrupt any offense. Obviously, we'll see next week what they could do against Mahomes, who is, depending on his ankle, is more mobile than anything that the 49ers have to offer. But also, I think the 49ers were just kind of dealt a bad beat with the injuries and everything. Could have made the game a little more exciting. Do I think that it would have been a close game? No, not really. But it would have made it at least maybe close into the third or early fourth quarter. Um, I just the one thing that would concern me going into the Super Bowl if I was an Eagles fan is I don't think Jalen Hurts looked great. Now that could be accredited to the 49ers defense, which has been number one in the NFL all season long. So, you know, the Chiefs don't have that good of a defense, but I just think Jalen Hurts took a little bit of a step back in this game. But again, I think it's the 49ers more so than it is Jalen Hurts. So the Eagles should feel pretty good. They're definitely going to be the favorite going into the Super Bowl. The 49ers, I just I question Shanahan when it comes to the big game. I said it last week. I just don't think he makes the right decisions. The Devontae Smith catch, no catch. You got to challenge. It's a huge play. That was
That was a
fourth
huge
down.
play.
You get the ball at midfield. Like you
Um,
have to challenge that, especially when Devontae Smith jumps up and he's sitting there like, come on, come on. Like obviously he
yeah,
knows.
he knows he didn't. Yeah,
Exactly. He knows there's a chance that he dropped it. I'm throwing the challenge flag as soon as I see Devontae Smith doing what he's doing. But nonetheless, I don't think that would have changed the game too much. The defense for the Eagles just too damn good. So
yeah, especially with the injury, I think that definitely played a part as well. Obviously so, but yeah, I mean, I wasn't surprised. I felt like it was going to be. I didn't think it was going to be as big of a blowout, but um, the defense of the 49ers has always been good. This year has been solid. Um, But yeah, I wasn't too surprised. Um, I thought the first quarter and the first half of the second quarter was boring for me personally. I don't like defensive heavy games. I like high scoring. Um, and I mean the 49ers, they looked really good the first quarter, first half of the second quarter.
And
Because
Christian McCaffrey looked unbelievable. Like that
yeah,
touchdown
oh,
run that
yeah,
he had. Holy
yeah,
cow.
yeah, I thought he was down for sure before
Yeah.
that. I mean he broke what two tackles on
Two
that play,
tackles, yeah.
I'd say it was
and
like 1.5. Epps didn't even
Yeah,
have that many.
that first tackle
Okay.
doesn't really count as a tackle attempt. So,
Epps got hurdled.
yeah.
I mean, to add in, I want to comment on a few things Jordan was talking about there. Historic, I think they're only 3 or 4 sacks away from tying the season of the '85 Bears. Who, if you ask
It's pretty
anybody,
good. You know, they weren't bad.
oh yeah,
They were okay.
they were. I mean, average defense.
Right.
And the only other team in front of them, I think, is 1 sack in front of them, is the '84 Bears. So that's, I mean, pretty
Pretty
close competition with, I would say, one of the rivaling best defenses in the history of the NFL.
Mhm.
And the other point on Hurts, I don't think he had to do a lot. I mean, yeah, he didn't do much in the first half when they were actually trying to do stuff, but then when you can just hand it off to anybody, like they're like, hey,
Yeah.
my third string running back. There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, second string running back. There you go. And they're just walking in the end zone like it's willy-nilly. That defense, I said, was untested. The Niners defense. They're outstanding. They're incredible. They're insane. Now, they faced nobody all year long. The only 2 offenses they faced that were good blew them out of the water. That's all you had to say. The Eagles' defense was better on all fronts. We pointed that out when we were talking about it last week. There wasn't really a point where I was like, I don't know where they beat us and they call this a better defense. Bosa was shut down by a guy with a groin injury. So he's out the window. That's not that he wasn't even
Bosa, like hurt or something early on. Like
Yeah, one of his teammates tossed one of the Eagles players into him on the sideline on a special
Yeah.
teams play.
He
And
came back
Bosa also got babied by a former rugby player multiple times.
I'm pretty sure the person that got thrown was Kevon Wallace, who then later in the game got thrown by Trent Williams. That guy was just getting tossed around all game. And just
Doing it for
tossed
the greater
around.
good. For
And
the
I would
greater
say
good.
on Jalen Hurts, that fourth down throw, that Devontae Smith catch, no catch, whatever, was a brilliant throw. And it took a lot of balls to make that throw. I think that Devontae Smith kind of got turned around a little bit, but the placement was fantastic. Because the defense wasn't bad on that play. He had to put the ball right where he put it, and that was a heck of a throw. Especially rolling out the opposite direction. I mean,
Yeah.
so
And
you're right, you don't have to do that much. So
on the only other time they attempted a big throw was to AJ, which I think AJ was adding on to his route where what Hurts was thinking. Hurts put it probably about 3-4 yards in front of him, but if you watch the tape, Brown made like an extra move to the outside before coming back in, and I think that was just to lose the defender, which he did. But I don't think Hurts was planning on him doing that because you can see both of them looking as they're walking the sideline, like, "Come on!" They were like,
Yeah.
"Well, I was trying to." Oh, okay. Well, yeah, we had a touchdown there. If you just keep running,
a
like,
little hitch and go to the outside, missed him by 3 or 4 yards. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think you're right. He didn't have to do that much. Jalen Hurts didn't, and I think against Mahomes he'll have to do more. So we'll see, next week. But yeah,
Mahomes and the refs.
Hmm?
Don't forget the refs. Gotta
We'll
add
get
them
to
in.
that.
Yeah.
We'll get to
there.
that.
We'll get there. Trust me.
Yeah, just kind of put a bow on that. I've heard a lot of that this week. It's just Jalen Hurts' passing numbers haven't been real impressive in the first couple of games, but as we've said, they don't have to be. The thing that Jalen does when he's healthy and when he can use his feet is make you honest in the running game. I mean, you saw Boston
Fred
Scott.
Warner, who?
Yeah,
But yeah, that's the point. When he's got his legs and he's running like that, you don't have a middle linebacker. You can't.
You can't attack a running back. You have to stay back and focus on the QB. Just come it around. I mean,
Now you're playing 11v10 because you have a guy standing in the middle of the field picking his nose, staring down there, watching Hurts. Like, what is Hurts gonna do? And now there's all this play evolving around him. You can't. It's hard to defend as a defense.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
think the
that's-
Eagles
that's-
play-
Yeah, that's exactly what you saw the Eagles do early in the season when they played Dallas. That's how they neutralized Micah Parsons, is they just made him make a decision. because he's got the intangibles to blow up a play. He's one of the best defensive players in football. But when he has to make a decision, and you have a quarterback like Jalen who is good enough to hand it off or know when to pull it and see what they're doing, that's something that he's not getting enough credit for. That people are focusing on his statistics and saying, well, he hasn't even thrown for like 150 yards in the first couple of games. Like, okay. Like Boston Scott scored a touchdown against the 49ers. Miles Sanders scored 2. Kenny Gainwell looked good, both running and catching the ball again for the second week in a row. And the reason that we're able to use these running backs and to deploy this 3-headed monster is because it's a 4-headed monster. And Jalen just has that X factor as far as using his feet. And I liked in this game the one drive where Jalen scored his rushing touchdown. He ran like 3 or 4 plays in a row. He kind of got hit in the back unnecessarily. Yeah, and then I was like, me and Austin were both like, uh-oh, like, is he banged up? No.
What about that little brawl towards the end of the game?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Trent Williams out there trying to start it for the Niners?
Yeah.
It
Trent
was
Williams and Kevon Wallace was just getting involved. And I thought it was funny, Trent Williams is one of the best, if not the best, left tackles in the NFL. I mean, there's no debating that. He's a very large, intimidating man, but I also liked how he kind of backed off whenever Ndamukong Suh kind of got up in his face, and he was like,
"You don't mess with Ndamukong Suh, though."
No, his Ndamukong means House of Spears.
He will literally kill someone.
You don't mess with a man whose name means House of Spears. So I think that was just frustration. Whenever you get dominated like that and you go through the injuries that you go through, you're going to be frustrated, and you just saw it shine through there.
For sure.
First 2 guys running off the bench to go join the fight. Marcus Epps, Reed Blankenship. 2 dogs. Yep. 2 dogs. Yeah. 2 guys we love. Just right there.
You gotta love it. You gotta love it. The safety's bringing some noise off the bench, and then Jalen just standing there with his jacket on like Batman. Gotta love that.
That picture was old.
It's great, but I think that pretty much concludes that game. Other than the injuries and the domination by the Eagles, that's really all you can say. So we will transition to the other game, the Chiefs and the Bengals. Like we said last week, and unfortunately it wasn't released to our listeners when we got to that part, but we had a little debate last week on whether or not we thought the Burrowhead and the Cincinnati mayor was going to play a part in this game, and if the players even cared. And I think at the end of the day, the resounding answer to that Yeah,
I don't know if the Bengals cared, but the Chiefs certainly cared.
The Chiefs cared.
Travis Kelce definitely cared.
Travis Kelce cared.
He cared a lot.
I love Travis Kelce.
He's a Cincinnati boy. Like, that's his place, too. Like, that's disrespect. I don't know if you saw on his podcast, he showed up in a Cincinnati hat, Cincinnati sweatshirt, and he was there repping all Bearcat stuff. Like, I'm from Cincinnati. This still pissed me off. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, so the game was much closer than the other game. It reminded me a lot of last year's game, the way Kansas City jumped out, and when the Bengals came back and tied it up, I thought that we were about to have another prime Joe Burrow moment. But at the end of the day, a hobbled Patrick Mahomes pulled it off. He very obviously was not 100%. He was not himself. He couldn't move around like he normally could, but at the end of the day, he was able to do just enough. As we already know, there were multiple calls in this game that were very questionable. The 5th down that was given to the Chiefs. Yeah. I do think, obviously, we talked in the group chat last week, the 15-yarder was a 15-yarder. I mean, that's a tough play.
It had to be a call. It had
to be a call. It did.
It was 2 yards out of bounds. It had to be. It was a boneheaded play. He was caught up in the moment, and I guess what he said after the game is he was trying to make sure Mahomes was going backwards when he went out of bounds, so the clock would keep going. And I'm like, dude, you're behind him. Like, you're literally behind him. How are you going to make him go backwards? Doesn't make any sense. So. Yeah,
I mean, it's a tough play to make for a defensive lineman to try to chase down a quarterback on the sideline, and Mahomes definitely sold it. But Joseph Asai, the player who got that penalty, it's really unfortunate for him because he had a great game. He was disruptive. He was in Mahomes' lap half the night, and it really stinks.
Did you hear the other Bengals player when they were going to the locker room yelling at him, like, why'd you do that? Like, you can't do that, man. I mean, the guys
you can't tear him down. You could tell he already felt bad about it. I mean, he was broken up the whole time.
Man.
Yeah. It's
And that player has since like retracted the comment and said that he felt bad about
It's
doing that.
emotional, I'm sure, and everything.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
yeah.
it's tough. It's tough. I mean, these guys are human, but that is a tough situation to put your teammate in. But um, Harrison Butker, he's been hit or miss this year. Literally, spent some time injured, but makes a field goal when it matters most. Chiefs squeak by 3, which, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure one of our analysts here predicted Chiefs by 3, and
weird
everyone else
it
picked the
didn't come
Bengals.
out. It's weird that episode didn't come out till after the game was over.
Yeah, that
That's
is
false.
odd.
I have timestamps. I
Who
have
edited this
timestamps.
podcast? I don't know, man.
Okay, I see how
That
it
part
is.
was released.
No, credits due where credits due. I mean, you made the call. It was a great game though. So
It was, and we have a lot more Burrow Mahomes games left in the future if we're lucky, and I think that
I hope so.
this is just the second of what we'll see many times in the AFC Championship moving forward.
yeah, it's like the Manning Brady rivalry. I think second coming of that.
And Josh Allen's just the Phillip Rivers, just always
Yes.
there but never present. Just a bridesmaid, never the bride.
Where's the same number too?
As long as he doesn't have like 13 kids like Philip Rivers does.
I'm predicting it. He's gonna have 12 at least.
All right, Andrew. I know that big Joe Burrow guy. So
Yeah, I mean, I think Joe Burrow did all he could. His O-line wasn't there. Took several sacks in the first quarter. I think they started to figure it out, but still the pressure was there all game. Disappointing, but Jordan, you mentioned Brady and Manning when comparing Mahomes and Joe Burrow, and I kind of feel like Mahomes and Travis Kelce. I know Travis Kelce is a little older, but I feel like they have like a relationship, kind of like Brady and Gronk did.
I agree.
It just seems like Travis Kelce is always there for Mahomes when he needs it. He bails him out whenever you think the play's dead. You think Mahomes is getting sacked. Mahomes will wiggle out of there somehow, and then Travis Kelce's right there, 3rd and 8, and he gets that 8 yards that he needs.
Andrew, do you think Travis Kelce's the GOAT of tight ends? Because I do.
I think he's definitely got the hands. The hands, he's up there with any wide receiver out there right now, in my opinion, as far as
he always finds himself in an open spot. I mean, it's hard as a tight end to do that. Like he's got the smarts of a receiver. He's always open. So that's why I would be the greatest.
That's a conversation we're definitely going to have in the offseason. I definitely want to go through who we think. We'll have an episode dedicated. Let's do like a tight end, wide receiver, running back, quarterback episode.
That'd be dope.
I want to break that down because I got long points on that tight end list. So
I think that another thing that makes Travis Kelce so dangerous as a tight end, he moves so well to get open for his quarterback, and I think his past as a quarterback, being a quarterback in high school and going into college initially as a quarterback, he thinks about what would I want people to do, how could I make my quarterback's life easier. I think that does play a part into it, and he's dangerous, man. You've got to account for him at all times. That's we'll get to our Super Bowl predictions, but that's a guy that you really have to keep account for. I don't know if I would put him past Gronk yet, but it's close.
I just put him above Gronk. I mean, I would put him above Gronk because he doesn't have Brady. Like I understand how good Mahomes is at creating time, which actually makes him, Kelce can find more open spots. But I mean, Gronk was just huge, and Brady would get him on a quick 5-yard out, and he would pretty much fall forward for 11, 12 yards. So, and he was unstoppable in the red zone, but Kelce is too. So I don't know. It's an argument to be had.
Yeah, I agree. Austin, any thoughts on the game?
I mean, I really watching it. It felt like a slugfest, like a nice scrappy game, just back and forth. Calls were all over the place. I mean, Chiefs got bad calls, Bengals got bad calls. That referee crew was just garbage through and through. And then I find out later that his family made bets on the I didn't know my brother put money on the Chiefs. Okay, well that's weird. That's oddity. I don't like that. It came down to it. You can't take a team with the drive and the energy in their home field, and you can't take that out of them. They're gonna find a way to win that game. Doesn't matter. They're gonna figure it out. I don't even think if that 15-yard penalty happened, they still go win that game. That's not the push out of bounds did not stop them from that wasn't what won the game.
Thought
It was
it just would have delayed the inevitable if they didn't kick a field
I
goal.
definitely agree. I think they look like the better overall team all night.
They did. They did.
And props to Chris Jones, man. I mean, a defensive tackle, an internal defensive lineman who disrupts the game the way he does. He's a man, and the Eagles' interior O line's gonna have their hands full. I like us against just about anybody, but I know for a fact this past week they've been preparing for that guy.
He's been doubled more than any other player in the NFL so far this season. I found that stat out this week. I think it was like 86 point something % of his snaps. He's been doubled. Yeah, which is ridiculous. Like, imagine you're coming out there every time and you're like, I know I got 2 guys on me. Like, it's going to happen. You have
He doesn't care though. He said put 3 on me.
Yeah.
He gets there too. Like, it's crazy.
Well, wait till that's 2 guys on the Eagles who there's that whole interior line has not let up a single sack that has been on them yet. So I just want to point that out. I put my money on those 3 guys to hold him at bay all day long.
Isaac Seumalo, of course, we'll get to the predictions here in a second, but Isaac Seumalo is the unsung hero of that line. You hear people talk about Jason Kelce. I mean, talking about GOATs. His brother, we could say he's the GOAT of tight ends, but Jason Kelce is the greatest center to ever play the game.
I agree. I would agree with that.
He's got dance moves too. Don't forget that.
He does. He hit that little just want to rock dance. Landon Dickerson, to be a guy that we took a chance on, who had some injury concerns coming out of Alabama, was a center at Alabama, played multiple positions on that line, has been an absolute stud at the guard position. And then Jordan Mailata, who's just a massive man, 7th round pick, former rugby player, absolute stud. And then Lane Johnson, who's babying Defensive Player of the Year nominees with a torn groin. But Isaac Seumalo is every bit as important to that line as anybody else. So he doesn't get nearly enough love. But yeah, just wanted to give him his flowers when I had the opportunity to. So that's basically all I've got on that game. Anybody else want to wrap it up?
I mean, I've got a couple points. I think, talking about the refs thing, that whole 5th down thing, I thought it was hilarious when they got the second, 3rd down opportunity, that it was an Eli Apple defensive holding, Mr. Cigar smoking Eli Apple, that ends up giving them the 1st down. Obviously, it didn't matter. It just wasted more clock. But I also think the clock management from the Bengals on the last drive was a little bit suspect. Mahomes is on the other side. I understand that you're trying to go win the game, but you have to make sure no matter what, you don't give Mahomes the ball back. So, I mean, when they get it to about the 40-yard line, I think the Bengals have a couple of timeouts. I'm running a couple draw plays, a couple screen passes, stuff that's not incomplete because I don't want the clock stopping unless it's, us calling timeouts because I don't want Mahomes getting the ball back. And I think the Bengals did that, did poorly. And then they punted. When they punted, that you got to punt that out of bounds. Why are you punting it to the center of the field? They get a 30-yard punt return, and all of a sudden, Mahomes is going to go win the game. He's going to.
You knew it. When that drive started, you knew it was happening.
Yeah.
It was already.
Well, I mean, when you have a 30-yard punt return because you punt a line drive down the middle with 30 seconds left, what are you doing? Yeah. Punt the ball out of bounds.
As soon as they missed the block in the back on that punt return, it was
that was bad.
It was tough.
I think, honestly, Mahomes has done a lot of great things in his career, but I think this game right here, because of the injury, because he lost Tyreek Hill, all the talk about, Burrow owns Mahomes and all this stuff, and then the ankle injury to go along with that, I think this is kind of the equivalent of his MJ flu game. And obviously, I think he's got to finish the job and win the Super Bowl, but I think for him, just everything surrounding this game, he just blackened out the noise and said, let's just go get it done, and he had a great game. So I kind of look at that the way that MJ's flu game was, just all the numbers stacked against him, and he balled out anyways. So the Chiefs are dangerous.
All right. Andrew, any parting words for Joe Burrow?
RIP to this season. Do what? He's a handsome guy, but I think he'll be back. I think he's proven himself. I think they need to. Yeah, he said he's kind of cute. I thought Austin.
I did not.
You said
that earlier. Andrew, you said that.
Maybe it's just in my head. I don't know. I thought he said he's kind of cute. I don't know. I was like, yeah, he's a handsome guy, I guess. But
That's all you think about.
But no, he'll definitely be back. I think we're going to see these guys played off year after year. But it was a good game. It was close. I mean, they'd take a shot. Bengals would come right back, tied up multiple times. It was a good game.
No. Well, that brings us to the end of our first segment. So now we will move on to our Super Bowl predictions. So we know the teams, we know the place, we know the time. Next week in Arizona, the Philadelphia Eagles will take on the Kansas City Chiefs. The first question everybody's asking, is this the Kelsey Bowl or is this the Andy Reid Bowl? A lot of storylines going into it where you have the Kelsey brothers being the first set of brothers to play against each other in this game. Then you've got Andy Reid going against his old team. You know, he got us to the Super Bowl one time, got us into the NFC Championship multiple times. Couldn't cross that finish line. Was able to do so right after the Eagles did so. Whenever we won the Super Bowl in February of 2018, Andy Reid's one of the first people I thought of. It's like, you know, he's having success in Kansas City, but he had not yet won a Super Bowl, so I kind of thought about that. And then he won one. So that storyline's going to be interesting going into this game.
Two great head coaches, though. Let's
Yeah.
just call them what it is. I mean, this is two very well-coached teams.
Yeah, two very well-coached teams, and it's going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to it. You know, the big questions are the injuries with Kansas City. It's not just Mahomes. You know, he has 2 weeks to recover. Is his ankle going to be anywhere near 100%? High ankle sprains take a while, you know, and it's not like he's been recovering for 3 weeks. He's got these 2 weeks off, but banged it up a little bit. You saw him hobbling last week. So how close to 100% will he be? Multiple receivers get hurt in that game. You've got Kadarius Toney, Mecole Hardman is listed as doubtful still for the Super Bowl. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how big of an impact those injuries play, as well as some guys on the defensive side of the ball for them too, who are still listed as questionable. So at the end of the day, it's going to get down to, can Mahomes have that escapability? If he doesn't have at least 90% of his escapability, I like the Eagles' front seven to disrupt the game a little bit. Patrick Mahomes is going to get his. He's just going to. Touchdown pass he threw to MVS last week was an absolute seed. I mean,
MVS had a big game.
MVS had a huge game. So he fits it into window. He's gonna get his. He's got Kelsey, but I just feel like altogether, you know, a bit of a homer pick here, obviously, but I feel like we're a better team, top to bottom. We're a more complete team. So my score prediction is Eagles 31, Chiefs 27. So this time next week, I'd say about this time next week, it being 1:42 in the afternoon, I will be very nervous in a week's time. But Austin doesn't get nervous, but I will be, because that's just how I am. I've seen this before, so I'm looking forward to it.
Let me break down why I'm not nervous. Look at the D-line. Who do you prefer? Eagles. Let's look at the secondary. Eagles. Linebacker core. Eagles. O-line. Eagles. Wide receivers. Eagles. Tight end. Chiefs. You get your one. You get your one.
Yeah.
Running backs. Eagles. It's a stable. It's a stable of horses.
Yeah.
I don't know about running back, man. That Pacheco kid is good, dude. And McKinnon out of the back.
They have 3 dogs? Do they have 3 dogs?
I'm just saying, Pacheco.
Our dogs are on chains. They're holding back the dogs. They're on chains.
And Jerick McKinnon just continues to score touchdowns every time they get to the red zone. So I'm
Hey,
just saying,
Pacheco can have a Pro Bowl type season, but Miles Sanders would have been playing in the Pro Bowl today if he wasn't going to Arizona.
I'm just saying it's closer than what it seems, I think, at the running back position.
Do you know what team just broke the record for most rushing touchdowns ever by a team ever? I mean, even better than the Yellow Jackets in 1939. I don't even know where the Yellow Jackets played.
Can you attribute a lot of that to the offensive line, though? Because I say you can. The offensive line of the Eagles is dominant.
That's fine, but
That's fair.
that gives the running backs the ability to be shit, and they still are good. They're
I mean,
dogs
that's
on
fine.
chains.
I completely agree with that.
guy. We got a 5'6" guy who's running, looking like he's a 230-pound
Yeah,
monster.
because the big hogs up front are making holes the size of in front of him.
That's fine, but I give running backs.
behind there. He's got 2,000 yards this season.
Well, we'll say run game overall then. Run game.
One game,
factor
sure. Even though there's a stable of
Yeah,
dogs.
if you say run game, definitely the Eagles.
Run game, Eagles. Quarterback, I give it to the Chiefs just because of experience. But
the
I
injury.
think with the injury, I think Jalen makes it damn close.
Yeah.
Damn close. I think Patrick's got the better arm, better experience, better talent in that ability, but he's you kind of have to plan for Jalen. Patrick, I'm planning for a great quarterback. All right, I just have to play great defense. I have to have my secondary ready. We need to be running. Everything needs to be tight. We need to have it tight. This man will cut us up. It's going to happen.
He has to be able to guard people for at least 5 to 7 seconds every play. That's what Mahomes does to you. It makes it, instead of having to make sure you're man-to-man against someone for 2 to 3 seconds, you got to be within 5 to 7 seconds. Because Mahomes is going to extend every play.
Doesn't even matter who he's throwing to. That's why I don't care about the wide receiver part, but it's just that's where I give it to Patrick. But you have to plan around Jalen. Like, it's not just like, we have to plan a tight defense. Now we have to plan to figure out how to stop this RPO. Now I got to figure out what my middle linebacker.
Just saying though about his ability to run the ball. I mean, it changes every linebacker that's in there is going to change all their plans. The defensive front is going to have to change everything because they have to account for Jalen Hurts running the ball. And when they over account for that, it leaves for guys like Miles Sanders to have a hole and get 10 yards a game.
And safeties can't cheat. You can't cheat in the zone. Now if you open up the middle, guess what? Now you got a 30-yard run by a guy taking off down the middle. Your quarterback. He slides down. He gets up. He does a little.
Hey.
Looks to the sideline,
And then you have the energy. Then you're rolling. Then now you have Boston Scott in the game. He goes for 12. Kenneth Gainwell goes for 6. Now you're walking down the field now after that. It's just that's a whole plan. And what did I just give it? That 7 of the 8 or 6 of the 8 I gave the Eagles way. I don't even think this makes it a close conversation. Eagles by 17. 30-13 birds all the way. Fly, fly. We hold a trophy.
Austin is confident, man. All right, so I give you like the 6 out of 8 positions. I agree with you, man. You look at the defense, just overall, secondary to the front 7 to everybody. It's just pure Eagles. Okay.
And I'm not saying Goddard is great tight end. It's just you're not going to touch Travis Kelce as we previously.
He's not close to Travis Kelce, but I mean he's very good, very good. Well above average in the league. But the whole defensive side of the ball is all Philadelphia. They just own it over what Kansas City can do. The offensive line, Philadelphia, way better. But for me, you have Mahomes, and I understand. I mean, at being a Cowboys fan, I'm a big Jalen Hurts fan. Love watching him play. I think he's super fun to watch. Great guy, great competitor. But Patrick Mahomes, like he's Michael Jordan-like in the way he plays. He can take a team and make them so much better just from his all about his ankle. If his ankle is 75% or above, he's going to make plays that are just, unbelievable. And also, I think Nick Sirianni's a great coach, but Andy Reid's a better coach. He's just proven it more. If you want to talk about like Jalen Hurts versus Mahomes, and Mahomes has the experience, and Andy Reid has the experience over Nick Sirianni. Nick Sirianni has a big task at hand with this Chiefs team. I see Mahomes having the day of his life. I see Travis Kelce having the day of his life. Give me the Chiefs, 31-27.
I was about to say he's definitely picking the Chiefs. It sounds like
I agree. I agree with what you're saying about Andy Reid.
Count on them.
I agree with what you said about Andy Reid and the whole coaching staff and that, because Nick Sirianni, he's a great coach. Yeah. But if you don't know, Eagles fans, we can bully him into doing what we want. Like that's
I love that about him.
He's a good motivator though too. I think that's a big thing about him. He's a great motivator to his team.
He's watered the plants.
That's a Andy Reid to be drawing mustaches all over the Eagles.
Clip that. Let's clip that.
We got anything on this?
Andy, what you think, buddy? Who are you picking?
Well, as a longtime Eagles fan, have been my whole life, never doubted them 1 second.
Exclude last week.
Yeah, we'll throw that episode out the window.
Yeah, forget
This-
about last week.
I'm going to
He
Eagles.
did say he was going to wait to see who won.
That's true.
I wanted to wait and let everybody else know later. I already knew in my heart, obviously. I got the Eagles. I think, like Austin mentioned, they're the better overall team. You got to account for the refs as well, so I think you missed 1 point, but I think they'll be on the Chiefs side. Me personally, anyway. But I got Eagles. I'm thinking 28, 24 Eagles. I think Mahomes is definitely going to bring his. He always plays great. The ankle is a concern, but I think he's going to power through no matter what. He's going to play. He's going to do his thing. I think Travis Kelce's going to be big for him. He always is. He always comes through.
He's going to be Super Bowl MVP, by the way, Travis Kelce.
Oh, you think so?
Ooh,
Going to be hard. Going to be hard with them losing, but you know.
I mean, I don't have them losing, so that's the thing.
That's wrong.
There's
because
no way.
actually
There's
Hassan
no-
Reddick. Hassan
There's-
Reddick MVP.
Yo, that's fine. There's
That
no
would be
shot.
dope, though. That would
Listen,
be dope.
As much as everybody loves Patrick Mahomes, there is no shot
That's true.
that if they win that game, they don't give him the MVP.
Hold on, though. Hold on. Say Mahomes throws for 250 and 3 tutties, right? All 3 touchdowns are to Kelce, but Kelce has 14 catches, 180 yards, which he's done this season, 3 tutties. I think they have to give it to Kelce at that point.
I mean, yeah, but at the end of the day,
That's
I'm
very
not going to
similar.
disagree with you. But James White also should not me. James White should have won the Super Bowl MVP
For the
in the
Patriots.
28 game.
Just to
And they
clarify.
gave it to Tom Brady because he's Tom
He
Brady.
had what? He had 3 touchdowns, include the game-winning
Yes.
touchdown. Then?
Yes,
Yeah, he
and a
should-
2-point conversion.
Yeah, he should have won it.
So, that's the
It
thing
is
about those
quarterback
big game
favorite.
players.
It's quarterback favorite.
It's
Yeah.
it's not going to be quarterback favorite when Hassan Reddick is sitting on top of Patrick Mahomes two times, and I'm going to call a half. I'm going to say Hargrave and him get to him once. It's a 2.5 sack game, 1 forced fumble. Hassan Reddick comes back, holds that Super Bowl MVP trophy as Jalen Hurts is holding Lombardi over here. Howie's smirking behind him.
I'm crying. I'm just bawling my eyes out.
Chairs are
Down my
broken.
feet. It's going to be
Chairs
a
are
while.
Every chair in your house is just destroyed.
R.I.P. every chair at my house if we win the Super Bowl. For our listeners, little behind the scenes story. Last time the Eagles won the Super Bowl, Andrew basically jumped in my lap and the chair I was sitting in just crumbled. And it was my grandma's kitchen chair. So,
Yeah, we got a
That
lot of
was,
stairs that Super Bowl, but you know.
but you know what? It was totally worth it. But I think you two have made your Super Bowl MVP picks. I think give me Jalen Hurts.
I'm
Give me
with you on that.
Hurts.
Jalen
I'll
Hurts
take the Jalen Hurts
all the way.
I think Jalen throws for 2, he runs for another.
I do have a
And,
note on here that Jalen has a great game. I mean, I've got it 31-27. Like, I've got an offensive battle. I think Jalen's going to have a good day. I just think the only reason I'm going with the Chiefs is I just think Mahomes brings a different element that the Eagles defense hasn't seen yet. I'm not saying they can't respond to it. I'm just saying he's very slippery. He's hard to sack. He will extend plays. I saw Dak Prescott throw for over 400 yards against the Eagles secondary. I know there were injuries involved. Gardner Johnson was out
Yeah.
that day.
Avonte Maddox.
Yeah, I understand there were injuries.
Avonte Maddox was the big part of that because they put somebody who doesn't play slot corner and they put him in not nickel corner and they put him in on CD in on the slot. And
yeah.
He had a
it was
huge
every play, and me and Jane, I was screaming. I'm just like, put somebody else there. They're just gonna keep putting CD in that same spot.
Yeah, you can't cover CD Lamb with Josiah Scott. Like, that's not going to happen. Josiah Scott's not going to be playing slot corner. Even, like, that's the thing with having CJ is as long as he's healthy, if Avante's wearing a walking boot this week, that's whatever. I think that's just them giving him some rest. He's going to play. He looked good. I mean, he looked good last week. But let's just say Avonte goes down in that game. Now we have CJ. CJ will play the slot corner, and Reed Blankenship goes to the safety. So we don't lose as much because CJ can play multiple positions. Because his primary position with the Saints was slot corner, playing that nickel. So, and then he led the league in interceptions playing safety this year, despite missing, 6 games? So having him is very important. And
I guess this is like for me, it's like a Mahomes statement game. What is he in Super Bowls now? 1-1. So this is his
Yeah.
third, right?
He is one
So
and one.
I mean, the championship game, your whole career is going to be defined. I mean, that's why we talk about Tom Brady being the GOAT, is because what he does in the Super Bowls, what he does in the postseason.
But
I
even
think
Tom Brady's lost a couple. I mean,
he's lost three. I mean, all to the NFC East.
Mahomes has been to the last three of the last four. Three of the last four. So I think Mahomes. I mean, yeah, if he's gonna get his. I don't think it's that big of a statement game, but
I think it's
if you're
huge game. Because I mean, it's the difference between being 2-1 and being 1-2 in the Super Bowl. All of a sudden, that you look at him and he's like, who's he beat? He's beat Jimmy G in the Super Bowl, but he goes and plays a real team. He can't win. I think it's a huge game for him. I mean, I think this is a huge statement game because you don't want to be the quarterback that goes to Super Bowls and loses them. Yeah, Tom Brady's lost 3, but he went to 10.
Well,
If you lose 2 out of your first 3, I think that's starting to become a trend.
Yeah, and Tom Brady won multiple Super Bowls before he ever lost one too.
Right, exactly.
That's fair.
But the thing that
either came across. So.
right, the thing that Tampa Bay team and this team have in common, this Eagles team, is getting after the passer.
True.
Mahomes was running for his freaking life, and he had Tyreek Hill to throw to.
He did. He's also a lot younger.
He was.
But I mean,
he was.
All that experiences. It adds up.
I mean, we're going to see that like you said, the ankle plays a huge part into it. If his ankle,
I agree with
like
that.
I said too, if it's not at least 90%, then it could be a long day. So it's going to be interesting. I think you got to try to get a shot on him early.
I agree. I'm
make him feel you
early on and often.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
So yeah, that'll. Andrew, who's your Super Bowl MVP?
I got Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think if the Eagles win, it's going to be Jalen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see it being a high-scoring game.
I hope it is. I see Jalen getting 2 touchdown passes. James, I agree with you. I think you said two passes, one run, right?
Yep.
I agree with you.
Yep.
I think that's a solid game for him and 250 yards.
I agree with that stat line, but that's where I'm having it. But if we hold that Kansas City offense to 13 points, like my prediction is, and that's how many drives stopped to field goals, Hassan Reddick just burying his face into a guy. Milton Williams is going to get a
13 points isn't going to happen, though.
13 points is going to happen, and you're going to be sitting here next week.
You want a side bet on it?
I'll put a side bet, a little water.
What's the case of that beer up there? All right, if you win, you send me some local beer. If I, other way, I'll send you.
You send me some Yeehaw, I'll send you some Stillmake. We'll put a water bet on it right now.
13,
there you go.
13.
It's locked
13,
in.
I got the over. You got 13 or under.
That's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll take that.
Deal.
We've got some action going on here on the A2J2 podcast. Just a little bit of a degenerate behavior. So we've got, like I said, I have the Chiefs scoring 27-2. So it's going to be an offensive player for me. But you got 2 Jalen Hurts, a Hassan Reddick, and a Travis Kelce. So that will do it for the Super Bowl predictions. All right, so our next topic is it's going to be a short little topic here, but since it's happening here in about 54 minutes from right now, we have the Pro Bowl today, and it's the new Pro Bowl setup. If you would have told somebody a couple of years ago that the Pro Bowl was going to be a flag football game, somebody probably would have said, why in the world are they doing that? But after watching that absolute travesty last year, where it was just, bump up against somebody and he's down, I'm kind of happy they're doing this. I think it'll be fun. I'm interested to see the setup. I'm interested to see what they're going to do. Are they going to let linemen catch the ball? Like, that'll be fun.
No.
Will it look like intramurals back in the day? I think it's going to be fun. I think run that center street play. It'll look like the yard on Madden.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be fun. I think that it's a good adjustment. I know Josh Jacobs came out recently and said that he didn't like it. He said some words that I'm not going to repeat. But I think it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. It's a little bit of football on a weekend where we're desperate for some football. So I will certainly be tuning in. And the thing about the Pro Bowl is if I'm not entertained by it, I'll just turn it off.
Yeah. I mean, so I went to the Pro Bowl last year in Vegas, and it was cool being at the stadium. And then obviously that stadium's just awesome being inside of. So, but then seeing Mahomes up close and personal, Micah Parsons, just all these guys, like that was cool. But we left at halftime because that Pro Bowl sucked. And I even told the guy I was with, Gary, I told him, I said, look, it'd be better if it was flag football because that's pretty much what they're playing. They're just hugging each other instead of tackling. You know, they literally don't even bring them to the ground; it's just hugging them. So I'm thrilled about it being flag football because I literally mentioned that last year. I hope that maybe at least they will go full speed because last year they didn't go full speed. It was a bunch of just jogging around. I understand the whole injury aspect, but I mean,
Yeah, nobody
run.
wants to get hurt on a Pro Bowl game.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, there's non-contact injuries that can happen, but that can happen when you're just jogging as compared
Right.
to actually running. So, yeah, I think the flag football aspect's going to be cool, and I think it'll be cool to see Peyton and Eli on the sidelines. I think that was a great addition because who doesn't love the Mannings? But yeah, I mean, like you said, I'm going to tune in, and if it sucks, I'll just turn it off. So.
I think the format is absolutely dumb. I'm gonna straight
So
up
I'll
say
say
it.
it.
I don't like any bit of it. I don't. The
Did
showcase.
you like it better than like last year, whenever there was nothing going on but just people hugging each other?
I will tell you what I want. This format is absolutely dumb. There's no hype around it. There's no anything. I didn't know when it was happening until you three just told me about 20 minutes ago that, hey, you want to watch the Pro Bowl later? Yeah, let's do it. I didn't know it was actually on today. I didn't even know the showcase happened. I saw it on YouTube the next day. I'm sitting there, I'm having my breakfast, and I'm looking at my phone. I'm like, oh, that showcase happened. I didn't even know it happened. I really wanted to watch the golfing part, and it
That was
happened.
the best part. That was the best part.
And they had a bunch of linemen playing golf, and then two guys that actually knew how to swing a golf club, which was hilarious. They were in Arizona. The ground was hard. Like you could I would outdrove all of those guys, and it made me feel great because they're like superior athletes, and it would have just made me feel really good about myself. But I know what we need to do. The format gone. Throw all this out the window. All stars gone. Okay, you can make a list like first team conference, like you did in high school. You didn't play an all star game. You played a. Oh, he was first team all conference. He was first team. He's second team conference. You know, cool. We have our who is the best player in the leagues. Oh, okay, yeah, that's great. I want a loser bowl. I want a Sacco bowl. I want it to be every year traveling around to a different stadium. The two lowest standing teams battle it out.
That'd be awesome.
That would be pretty
the
dumb.
number one overall draft pick.
Can the Cowboys be in it every year?
I mean, good. I mean,
They probably would be. Let's be
it's
honest.
the only bowl that they will ever visit. So I mean, hey, yo,
I wouldn't say ever. I wouldn't say ever.
I have not seen one since I've been born, so it's fine by me.
I mean, same.
But I think it would be great. Like it would get rid of the whole you tank to get there. We do this in my dynasty league. Like this is how we do it. The bottom four teams, they literally have a competition of who's tanking all year long. Bottom four make it into a tournament where then it just turns around and flips. All of a sudden, these teams
You
start
gotta
getting.
win it to get the 1 seed then?
You have to win the little loser tournament to get the one.
I
seed.
like
My
that.
buddy-
That's dope. Yeah.
My buddy snuck in as the 4, and which is the best team technically. Snuck in there, dominated, put up 160-point weeks 2 weeks in a row to go get his first round pick. I was like, your team could just be good. Like, why is your team
Why
dog?
are you
Like, why is
selling?
it crap? Like, I don't understand how you got here to begin with, and then you put on a show, and it was just like, I want the Houston Texans and the Chicago Bears to play a game where they are just beating the crap out of each other to decide who gets the number one pick. Like
Also,
I want
how in the world did the Pro Bowl ever get here? Does anybody else remember Sean Taylor killing a punter during a Pro Bowl?
Yeah, that happened.
How did we get to
Well,
flag football from that?
The thing about it is as soon as they made it before the Super Bowl, they took it out of Hawaii. They made it before the Super Bowl, so the best players on the best teams aren't there anymore. That kind of screwed up the Pro Bowl, and it just became so soft. It's really disappointing because the Pro Bowl used to be fun. Like the players from the Super Bowl winning team, I remember vividly after the Patriots won a Super Bowl that they went running out onto the field and were celebrating winning the Super Bowl. So
Yeah.
it was a different game then.
They definitely should never put it before the Super Bowl.
that
Yeah,
was
I don't
I mean,
like
I
that
don't like-
either.
I don't
I don't
like-
like that at all.
I don't like the bye week before the Super Bowl, but I don't think you put the Pro Bowl before it is. But that's just me.
Yeah. Well, Andrew, Pro Bowl? Question mark?
You know, I kind of want to wait and see how it turns out. Kind of like with the Burrow and the Eagles thing, you know.
Yeah, naturally.
I mean, that never happened. Anyways,
you're open to it, but you want to see what it looks like.
Yeah, I want to see what it looks like. I'm open for sure because anything beats last year. I think it takes a new approach to it. I mean, you got hand-eye coordination. You got to go for a flag instead of just running straight into a guy. I just want
It's
to
going to be interesting to
goes.
see these guys who are trained to run through people, like not run through people. Because like when we played intramural football in college, it was hard for us not to run through people.
And we're not doing it every single day. You know,
No,
like,
that's not our job. So
yeah.
I mean, on our team, you know, it's the three of us that played on the same intramural teams. Of course, Austin was in high school and many miles away. Like I was the only one who played football in high school, but even you all had a hard time not running through people. So
Yeah.
it's going to be fun. I think at least a couple of people are going to get blown up accidentally.
Yeah.
So, and also, why are there
can see
punters at the Pro Bowl? Are you going to punt in a 7-on-7 flag football game? Like,
Yeah.
Tress Way looked good hitting a golf ball because I'm sure he plays lots of golf because he's a punter, and he also punts a lot and plays for the Commanders. But
That's actually what he said when he stepped up to the tee box. Everybody else gave like a little speech, like, "This is my first time swinging a golf club." He goes, "I'm here because I'm a punter and I do this a lot." And he steps up and just gets a rocket. It's
Just nails it.
Let's go.
Matt Judon steps up and he goes, "Matt Judon, high and right," and then he just blasts it into the trees high and right. It was just shankopotamus. It was so funny. It was fun though. I enjoyed watching that part, and then
That
watching
part
the
was
guys try to catch
entertaining.
water
Yeah.
balloons.
I would like to watch players golf more. That was entertaining.
Yeah, that's what I said. I said I'd watch like an hour of just them playing golf
Yeah.
because it's funny, and
They should
half
have-
of them don't know what they're doing.
Honestly, it should have been a 4v4 scramble, and we just watched these two teams play a scramble against each other. Like, NFC gets 4 guys, they pick their 4 best golfers, and they have to have one guy who's never swung a golf club before, and they give 4 AFC guys, 3 good golfers, 1 guy who's never swung a golf club before, and we just watch them duke it out. I would love that.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
That'd be fantastic.
Yeah. Well, that'll put a bow on the Pro Bowl segment, and we'll see what that's all about. We'll reflect on that a little bit in our next episode next week whenever we are a day away from the Super Bowl. But we're going to transition into a segment that is 100% subjective, and that is quarterbacks in new places next year. My list of quarterbacks that I made last week after we recorded the pod was Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr, Lamar Jackson, and Jimmy G. And of course, we have an answer to one of those already. Tom Brady will be at home, maybe, unless he decides
He's still on
Come
my
back. Yeah.
list.
So I think Tom Brady. I think he's done. I really do think he's done. You could hear the emotion in his voice in his retirement video. So I do think he's done. Derek Carr looked like an absolute animal in the skills competition
really-
the other night.
really good.
I'm interested to see where he ends up. I think that there's multiple teams that are in play for Carr. I think the Jets are a possibility. The Buccaneers can be a possibility for a bunch of different people. I think the easy way to go is the Colts because they like big, boring white guys who will underachieve, and everybody will hype them up all offseason, and then it'll be the same story. So it'll be interesting to see that. Derek Carr can be good. He just had a really unfortunate year. He's a really good dude, so I'd like to see him land somewhere where he'll have some success. Aaron Rodgers on my list, I put some forest somewhere doing drugs. That's probably where he's going to end up, but it's the same thing that happened last year, dude. Like, let's be honest. He's probably going to end up with the Packers. He's just going to still be with the Packers, and he's just going to torture their fans for an offseason. If he's not with the Packers, I think that you have to say that the betting favorite has to be the Raiders. Devontae Adams and him reuniting in Las Vegas could be interesting. But I think he's going to end up back with the Packers. I think Lamar's going to get franchise tagged. But if he doesn't, that could be a situation where, he's like, you're going to pay me or I'm not going to play for you. Like those are your options. A team, I don't think this is where he's going to go, but a team that I've heard people talking about that could be real interesting is Miami. Lamar Jackson is from the area. He was originally committed to the University of Miami, and he decided to go to Louisville whenever they thought that they were going to have to blow up the Miami program. So that could be fun.
Him and Tyreek Hill would be interesting.
Yeah,
That'd be
Be
dope.
very interesting. Another team that could be interesting with Lamar would be the Jets. They've got some. I mean, Garrett Wilson's better than anything he has in Baltimore,
They got a
and
great defense too.
their defense is good. Brees Hall will be back next year, and he was very, very promising until he suffered a season-ending injury. So that could be interesting. Jimmy G,
You think
the
he's
way
done?
he should be. Jimmy G is going to. He's going to fill Tom Brady's shoes again. He's going to Tampa Bay. That's where I've got him going. So those are my quarterbacks on my list. Y'all's list might look different. You might have some players that I didn't include, but that's what I've got.
I have basically a very similar list. I have Carr and Indy. I have Rodgers not to a Woods, but actually to the steel jungle. I'm sending him over to the Jets. He's going to the big city. Lance in Tampa Bay.
Oh,
I think he's going to demand out, and I think that's his landing spot. I have Wilson the Cougar Hunter, and he's going to be in the woods hunting cougars.
that's fair.
I want Dak. He's a Raider.
Oh,
I think I could see that.
That's interesting.
Jimmy G is a Cowboy.
Uh-oh.
I don't know if that'll happen, but
Would you
Brady
be
is-
opposed to it?
yes.
Yes.
You're opposed to it?
Yeah.
Well, then that's probably going to happen. Then. That's just how it goes.
I don't know. It depends on what kind of contract he goes on. Because Dak's contract is stupid, so.
Yeah, I think it would matter if the Raiders can take money. What's happening with that? And the whole nonsense.
So Austin, do you give the starting job to Purdy at the 49ers? Is that what you're?
I have Brady in San Francisco. He comes
Back.
He comes back to San Francisco, where he's
That's to his
from.
childhood team.
He plays a little football, gets hurt. Purdy comes back in. We hear all about it again. Purdy's the new go. Oh my God! Now I'm going to be
Mr. Relevant.
preaching the same thing again next year. How he's not good, and I'm going to be sitting here doing the same thing again. I then have Jameis. This isn't a starter, but he goes to Chicago as the backup.
He needs to be a
They need a
backup.
backup with the way Justin Fields plays. He runs so much. You got to have somebody who's capable.
Exactly why I was thinking that. And then I have Lamar in Miami. Way to ruin that bubble.
That Miami, that
Sorry
Miami
about that.
is scary with Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
I think that's interesting. A lot of your choices. I personally, I don't think Rodgers is going back to Green Bay. I think that ship has sailed. He's burned all the bridges there. I think he's going back with Devontae Adams. I think he's going to Vegas. I think that's the betting favorite right now, and I think that those two back together, Rodgers will finish his career in Vegas with Devontae Adams. Jimmy G, I agree. I don't think Jameis Winston is a guy, so I think Jimmy G is going to go to the Saints. I think the Saints are going to be looking out for a quarterback, and I think that Jimmy G is going to be that guy. Tampa Bay's quarterback role, I think, is going to be filled by Derek Carr. Obviously, he's getting out of Vegas. Tampa Bay needs one with Brady's departure, so we got Carr there, and I think Lamar's going to get franchise tagged, and I actually think he's going to sit out training camp, probably a portion of the regular season, trying to demand a trade, trying to get out of there. This franchise tag, I mean, it's ridiculous. They're not paying the man. They need to pay the man. One of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, won the MVP not long ago. So I just think it's ridiculous. But yeah, I think that's pretty much what's going to happen. So I think Miami sticks with Tua. Until he has a couple more concussions, then we'll see where that goes.
Yeah. Andrew?
My list isn't as long. I actually didn't make too much of a list, but I would like to see Lamar Jackson in Miami. I think that would be interesting. I think him and Tyreek Hill would be a pretty good duo.
Jalen Waddle.
Yeah.
He's a dog.
I'm interested to see where Aaron Rodgers goes. I definitely think Derek Carr's out. I think he's going somewhere, especially with how he looked recently. So, but yeah, like I said, I don't have too in-depth of a list right now. But
Yeah, it's 100% up for speculation, something like this. So just have a little bit of fun with that. It was fun to kind of break down the different situations. I actually did a little bit of research and looked online and read a couple of articles, and some of those articles were really stupid. So then I was like, I'm just going to make my own list. And of course, you have to factor in kind of to transition into what we're about to talk about, the draft picks. What's going to happen there? Can some of the teams that need a quarterback try to entice Chicago to jump up there and get the first pick? Who knows? Trade this year's first, next year's first. Trade a slew of picks to try to get a Bryce Young or a C.J. Stroud. If you trade a slew of picks for Will Levis, you're going to be
Good luck,
very
sir.
disappointed. I'm going to
Good
go
luck,
ahead and we are a anti Will Levis podcast. Now, maybe a couple years down the road, he might prove us wrong. But as a Tennessee Volunteers fan and as somebody who was in Neyland Stadium this year to watch that man poop the bed full after I heard how great he was all offseason, I do not like Will Levis, and I think he's a bum, and I think that somebody is going to draft him and get fired because of it, because he's got a big arm and that's about it. He's just I just don't like him. But that adds another. You have to see. I hope somebody does like try to trade with the Bears and try to jump up there, and I think that'd be funny. Lovie Smith could get another last laugh since they won that game. The Texans have to pick their second best option. So, but yeah. So we'll transition to our next round here, and now we're talking about our favorite team's draft targets. So it's going to just depend on who your favorite team is. Now, Andrew, of course, has decided to come back to the Eagles
He
bandwagon.
might be a Lions fan right now. I don't know.
8 different teams he's actually made picks for today.
So my draft targets, it really depends on what we do in the off season. Can we re-sign some of the guys that are up for a new contract? Can we re-sign Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and James Bradberry? Can we get them both back? I hope we can. But at the end of the day, if we have to make a decision between one or the other, I think we have to go with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson because he's younger. He can play in multiple places. There's more enticing people you can draft to take Bradberry's job if he's gone. If he is indeed gone next year, I hope he's back. I'm a big fan of him. All-Pro James, as they were calling him after the Giants game. But so I have some corners on my list. I've seen us attached to Christian Gonzalez from Oregon. I did not put him on my list. I don't trust a corner from the Pac-12. I just don't. On my list, I have Joey Porter Jr. I really like the way that kid plays. His dad, Joey Porter, was an absolute dog with the Steelers. I've seen him getting drafted by the Steelers in a bajillion different mock drafts. I think that's just to push a narrative. I think if Joey Porter Jr. is there at 10, you might have to really seriously think about taking him, especially after the combine if he's impressive there. Keely Ringo, who's a guy that's been impressive and playing for the best defense in college football the past couple of years. We drafted a couple Georgia guys last year. Wouldn't be bad for the chemistry there to bring him into the fold. He's big, he's physical. He's kind of a Trayvon Diggs type player where he's either, making a big play or he's getting burnt. But I like the kid. I think he's a solid player. Could go edge rusher. I like Myles Murphy. I think realistically he might be there at 10 when the Eagles pick first. So Myles Murphy, obviously I'd love to have a Jalen Carter or a Will Anderson, but they're going to be long gone by the time the Eagles pick. So, Myles Murphy might be the best opportunity. The Brian Brisset kid from Clemson as well, not a bad pick either if he's there. But going down, whether we're picking 30th or 31st, because we will be picking 30th or 31st since Miami is forfeiting their first-round pick this year, I've got Bijan Robinson. If he's there, the best running back in college football last year, won the award for the best running back in college football. If he's there, it's tempting to not add another stud to your stable of backs. And if he is gone, yes. And if he is gone, Jahmyr Gibbs. Tennessee fans, we beat Alabama this year. Thank God we broke the curse. Jahmyr Gibbs reminds me a lot of Alvin Kamara. They put him in the slot a lot too. He is versatile. He's an absolute stud. I really like him. So wouldn't be mad at Jahmyr Gibbs. And also just because, again, I am a Tennessee fan, Jalen Hyatt is on my list.
God dang. I said leaking one on my list. I'm over here sitting, listen to my man say my list off in order. It's Christian Gonzalez, question mark, poop emoji. Joey Porter Jr., Bijan Robinson, if gone, Jahmyr Gibbs, and then he goes and takes my Jalen Hyatt. Oh my gosh,
that shouldn't surprise you.
I love Jalen Hyatt.
The thing about that is though, some people, like, especially if you do like a mock draft simulator, they have Jalen Hyatt going in like the second or even third round. The kid will be a first round pick. I'm telling you that right now. He's fast. His 40 time he runs a sub 4.3 40. I think he will at the combine, and somebody's going to fall in love with him, and they're going to take him in the first round. But if somehow, by the grace of God, he is available in the second round, you got to take him. I don't think we burn a first round pick on a receiver. We have plenty, but if we could add Jalen Hyatt in that slot position to take Quez's spot, that'd be very interesting. So that's my list. Sorry, Austin, I didn't mean to completely jack your swag there, but
Yeah, we get to skip one part of it because you said my exact list in order, basically, so that's fine. So we can move to the Cowboys.
Yeah.
I mean, for the Cowboys, it's Jalen Hyatt, Jalen Hyatt, Jalen Hyatt for me. Like, honestly, we need a number 2 receiver behind CeeDee Lamb because Noah Brown's not going to be it. Michael Gallup is not going to be it. T.Y. Hilton's 150 years old. So go out there and get Jalen Hyatt. If he's available come, 20, 25, 26, whatever we're picking, give me Jalen Hyatt. And then later on in the draft, I think we need offensive line depth just because, a lot of our offensive linemen are starting to get old. So I think that's a big thing. And then also corner depth. I mean, you saw the injuries in our secondary really killed us. I think our safeties were really good. But, I don't think Trayvon Diggs is like fantastic or anything, but behind him, our cornerbacks were just trash. So I think you got to focus on a number 2 wide receiver, offensive line depth, and cornerback depth if I'm the Cowboys, and maybe a new kicker. We'll see how the extra point situation goes, but
hey, I want to ask you a question because we had a conversation 1 or 2 years ago. You told me, see if you remember saying this. I want to know if you still think this. You told me Michael Gallup is better than Amari Cooper.
I did. I mean, I was
yeah, you did. You said you'd rather have
Michael Gallup showed a lot of potential when he first jumped into the league. I mean, honestly, he's only gone downhill. So what he showed me at the beginning of his career showed me that, I think he could have been one of the best. I mean, I don't know if that injury that he had last year really, really dampened his career or whatever, but he just didn't look like the same guy, didn't have the same speed, dropped a lot of passes this year, didn't have the cuts. But right now, no, he's definitely not better than Amari Cooper. But do I wish we still had Amari Cooper? Not really. Not really. He's just very expensive, and he wants to be number 1 guy. CeeDee Lamb is clearly our number 1. He'd be a number 1 on, 3/4 of the NFL teams out there. So,
me and Austin were big CeeDee Lamb guys too. We really wanted him to come to the Eagles. So, and then I wanted Justin Jefferson. Austin wanted a linebacker. And we took Jalen Rager. And we all know how that works.
Linebacker ended up being good. I'm just going to point out, he ended up being good. It was just, it's just relatively.
Was he as good as Justin Jefferson? I'm just curious.
No.
Yeah, I was mad. And honestly, I'm going to go ahead and put myself on blast here. I was mad when we picked this guy right here. I was frustrated.
A lot of Eagles fans were.
And I'm so thankful that, most of the time I'm like, I could do these guys' jobs. Not then.
You're saying you like him better than Carson Wentz?
Dude, yes. I hate Carson Wentz. But the thing about it was because Carson Wentz is so weak-minded, dude, and he knew that at the time.
I told you from the beginning Carson Wentz wasn't.
Yes. No, you were right about that. Since I threw you under the bus, you deserve to throw me under the bus
all along.
there.
Carson Wentz sucks.
So he's just he's very weak-minded, and I knew bringing Jalen into the fold was going to affect him, and it did, but it affected him in a great way, getting him the heck on out, where he's been with 2 different teams since then. He'll be on a 3rd next year, and that guy right there has us in the biggest game of them all. So, Andrew, thoughts?
I agree with you, James. I think you have a great list. Personally, my heart wants to go with Jalen Hyatt. I've got his jersey. I would love to see him in an Eagles uniform. I'd love to see him out there. But I agree as well. I don't think he's a first round for us. I think second round, if we can get him then. That'd be big.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be mad about trading up for him if we really want to, but I don't want to mortgage too much to get him. Like, I'm not going to give a first-round pick when we've done what we've done recently. So, not surprised with the Jalen Hyatt pick, since you are a very large Jalen Hyatt fan.
Yeah,
I wouldn't even be surprised if the Eagles start their draft by trading back from that 10th, and then they have first next year, and they add to their depth, so they have 2 first picks next year, and then they'll do a bunch of shenanigans.
It's what we do. It's what we do. And, last year we traded back with the Saints, and and then we traded one of our first round picks for A.J. Brown. And I had a flat tire when I found out that A.J. Brown was going to be an Eagle, and I just didn't care anymore. And you know, being in Tennessee, being able to talk smack to all the Titans fans all off season long, and now talking smack to them, especially after he sunned them and had them fire their GM, it was great. So who knows? Howie is always scheming. He's either doing really good things or making us scratch our head a little bit, like what's he doing? But you know, he's got us where we want to be. So,
let him cook. You gotta just let him. You gotta let him cook.
Let Howie cook.
That 2017 draft class ended up all being freaking Pro Bowlers this year. That's nuts, ludicrous. What? Like, how do you do that? Even the 7th round guy? That's nuts.
We didn't. After we won the Super Bowl, we didn't even have a first round pick. Our first pick was Dallas Goedert, and great draft. Joe Dirt, as you like to call him.
Before we start all this, what do y'all think about Sean Payton to the Broncos? Because I know the Broncos gave up a big haul for Sean Payton, but I really think that it's kind of their only hope. They obviously paid Russell Wilson a ton of money to come there, and he was a big flop last year. So they have to throw everything in the kitchen sink to try to make him better again. Sean Payton is the best option for that. So I don't even mind what the Broncos got rid of to get him.
It's either you give up this now or you're screwed for the next 3 years. They can't cut him for 3 years.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like $100 and something million they'd have to give up with their cap space. So it's like this is your back's against the wall. Last resort. Great coach. Maybe he fixes him. Maybe he implements the Drew Brees getting old offense where it's 6-yard slant, 6-yard slant, 6-yard slant, 6-yard slant, and they just walk down the field like that. Maybe they go get a running back. They have Javonte, but Javonte is more of a bowling ball than he is the Alvin Kamara style. But I mean, you have the Mark Ingram, Alvin, like get that combo, and I think they could fix him.
They also have great wide receivers, and they have one of the best defenses in the NFL. So they have the pieces there. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Like, you got to put the pieces in, you got to put the chips in, and try to put Russell in the best situation possible. You went and got the best coach that everybody wanted to hire if you want to coach at this point in time. They just did what they had to do. And, you know, they gave up a first-round draft pick to do it. But, I mean, you know, Jahmyr Gibbs might be available in the second round. You get your Alvin Kamara player to go with Javonte. Who knows? So it could be interesting. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do there, especially since, like, I don't care about the AFC West. That doesn't bother me at all. It doesn't affect me at all. So
a good amount of money or beer, Austin, that they're going to be better than they were, this year. Next year they'll be better than they were this year.
Well, they will be.
It'd be tough to not do. Well, they went 4 games. So.
Yeah, it'd be tough
I don't anticipate them
worse
making the
than that.
playoff. I don't anticipate them making. No, I
don't. I think they'll compete for it. I mean, it really just depends on what we see in Vegas. I mean, Also, I think the Chargers getting Kellen Moore too. Like they're going to be. They're going to be better than they were this year.
Yeah, so, Kellen Moore's got to come in there and tell Brandon Staley that he's a bum, and he's like, "Let me put Justin Herbert in a position. I've been working with Dak. Now I've got Justin Herbert. Like, you've got check down God, Austin Eckler. You've got if you can keep your receivers healthy, then the pieces are there."
As much as I love Keenan Allen, if I had to pick a favorite player in the NFL outside of the Philadelphia Eagles, it's Keenan Allen. And I will admit, Buddy's getting old.
Yeah.
I love him to death, but he's
he can barely run down the road without pulling a hammy.
Yeah. And Mike Williams, didn't play in the playoff game, so you've got to.
Yeah, because Brandon Staley's an idiot.
Yep.
He played his starters in the last week when it meant nothing, and he got hurt.
Yep.
So.
Well, before we wrap this one up, boys, it's been very fun. But before we wrap this one up, if indeed we never see Tom Brady play another football game again, I want to say thank you to TB12 for being one of the greatest ever, and thank you for fumbling that ball into Derek Barnett's hands.
The only good thing Derek Barnett's done ever.
It's always him. It's always him. That's why we were good this year, because he wasn't out there committing asinine penalties. He won't be back next year.
I just thank Tom Brady for creating the whole Matt Ryan narrative, because that's been one of the most crappy Matt Ryan. It's awesome.
Yep. So, thank you all for joining us here again for our first full episode of the A2J2 podcast. We really appreciate the support we've had. If you don't mind, please like, subscribe. We've got a lot of fun stuff coming your way. Now we're only getting bigger. We now have a Twitter and an Instagram page. Follow us
Merchandise
at
coming soon. Merchandise
Do
will
what?
reach out to any of us if you're interested in merchandise, because merchandise is coming soon.
Merchandise will be coming. We've got a little
Definitely.
test batch on the way. We're going to see what we like, and there could very well be some merch on the way for you in the future. So follow us on Instagram and Twitter at A2J2 Pod. Thank you all for joining us here, and we look forward to being back with you next week in preparation for the Super Bowl. As always, go Birds.
Go Birds.
Baseball
Birds.
season.